It's Eve 2020, May 13th. Had to double check that. I am Meteorol, here with some friends. I go through today's news in Eve Online. Say hi, Spod.
Hello.
Oh, Silva's here. That's good.
Hello.
Also, we'll be talking to Komi later in the show.
Hi, guys.
All right, let's do some stats work here. Going to Dotland and looking at the most violent regions in EVE Online the last 24 hours. In 00 space is a big fight, it looks like, in Innsmother. So we'll have a look at that one. That had 1,023 ships destroyed with 722 pods. Providence is in second place. It's back in the news with 810 ships destroyed, 498 pods destroyed. And then Delve comes in third with 749 ships destroyed with 548 pods. We also have in fifth place there. Fourth is Vale of the Silent, and then fifth is Pureblind with about 500. I think there was a battle there that we'll talk about later on. In Empire Space, the Forge comes in at a regular 2,911 ships destroyed. Then Lone Trek in second place, 2,939 ships destroyed. And Domain in third, 2,836. Those are all very regular numbers for very regular violent regions in Empire Space. The Forge, Trade Hub, Lone Trek, neighboring the Trade Hub, and Domain, another Trade Hub. In fourth place, though, is Cinq Liaison with 2,000 ships destroyed, 2,198, so that's like 2,200 ships destroyed. And there is some harassment from Code taking on, what are they called? Silent Company. It's a very, very big high-sec group, so there's some conflict to watch there. More specifically, the most violent systems in the last 24 hours. In Innsmother, we can see EFM attack. That was where 439 ships were destroyed. And again, in Pureblind, I mentioned there was a battle there. 244 ships were destroyed in X-Tech 7. Well, it looks like it was a series of battles in Innsmother because you had, in third place, 3-TAC-0 had 236 ships destroyed. And then on fourth place, we get to the system in Providence where the battle took place to get Providence on the board. And that was B-TAC-WP with 260 ships destroyed. Low sec, no surprises here. Tama tops the list with 510 ships destroyed. In second spot is Onanen, 186 ships destroyed. And in Black Rise, we have Nenamela, 234 ships destroyed. Those are all relatively stable, violent systems in low sec. And the most violent systems in high sec, see where people are getting picked off. Right now, in the last 3 hours, you have Odern in Cinq Liaison. So that's 200 ships destroyed in the last 3 hours. So something's going on right now. And I'm sure it's in the home system of Silent Company. So Code is active probably. Otherwise, in the last 24 hours, top spot goes to Domain system called Narja with 1,442. That is probably gate camping. And Jita's always on this list because people undock from that trade hub and get exploded quickly. And 754 ships were destroyed in Jita. And then in the last 24 hours, you'll recognize Odern again with 745 ships destroyed total. That means in the last 3 hours, 200 ships were destroyed. In the last 24 hours, 745 ships were destroyed. So 500 ships been destroyed. That weren't destroyed in the last 3 hours. Okay, looking at the ratting systems, it's still Outer Passage, Cobalt Edge, Cabal Expanse, and Delve. Some mail pass in there, and those are all very typical NPC ratting. These guys are taking out 30, 40,000 NPC ships per day. So those are huge numbers. But always the same systems and regions. Let's move over to kill boards. Anything over 5 billion we'll take a look at. Ranger Regiment lost a 13, or actually 14 billion jump freighter. The jump freighter accounts for probably 9 billion of that. That was killed by Volta. See a dreadnaught. That's not particularly interesting. Another Rhea was destroyed. Again, a jump freighter. Jump freighters automatically make this list because they're over 5 billion just in the ship alone. But a Fortizar went down that belonged to BS Corporation. This was in a wormhole. 113925. That's the wormhole designation. This was killed by Bunny and Bear. An Ashnar, that's another jump freighter, was destroyed. This one a little bit more expensive than the first one at about 16 billion, and that was belonging to Betrayed Illusions, and it was destroyed by X-Miners organization. Well, this is interesting. We have an Orca that was destroyed that belonged to Dark Taboo. It was destroyed by Heldon. And let's have a look at that one because that was 6 billion. Orcas are worth generally, I think they've been as low as 400 million, but they've been as high as like 800 million. So a 6 billion ISK Orca, something's in the cargo or the fitting.
They are really popular for hauling large and expensive stuff.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily the best idea, but
Right. So I see some compressed ore in there, but in the fleet hangar,
that's almost a billion worth of ore there, to be fair.
The revelation that died in the C6, I can actually tell a bit more story about this because the person that killed it is a member of our corp.
Hold that thought for 1 second so I don't have to index all over the place. I'm looking at this and I see... Yeah, so the fitted was 86 million. That's not that much. Total dropped was... Well, total destroyed was 4 billion. Total dropped was 2 billion. Was ganked, but that was in... What system was it? Yeah, it was domain, so that's 0.7, so it was ganked. Am I missing it? What is it? Improved cloak, 5 million. Yeah, I don't see what was so expensive on this.
That's what it is. He has a full cargo full of fighters. He's got 1.5 billion of fighters in his cargo hold. Then he's got 1 billion of compressed ore, and then another 3 billion of just assorted bits and bobs. There doesn't seem to be any particularly big ticket items. He just had a whole bunch of odds and ends.
Yes, inside the drone bay. I don't usually look there, but yeah, 1.5 billion. Then 1 billion for ore. Then 3 billion in cargo. You're right. So it added up. That's a big night. A lot of torpedoes. I think he was up to something. Let's see.
It looks like it was a war target. I know Heldorn are a... Listen, I might be wrong, but I believe they've been doing a lot of war decks recently.
All right, that's the Orca. Let's go back to that 5 billion ISK Revelation, which is an Amar Dreadnought. What can you tell us about this one? Volta killed this one.
What I can tell is the person that ganked this is a member of our corp called Odiek, and he's quite an incredible player. He's got well over 20 accounts that he's capable of multi-boxing. So every person in this kill, all the Leshaks the Balgorn, the Damnation, the Eos was all one man. And based on the account names and which accounts he used, he found this revelation through a connection in our wormhole system, so most likely through a C5. And he multi-boxed enough accounts to go ahead and gank it and kill it. He's, from what we know about his days in other wormhole groups, he's a very long-time player. He's a very capable multi-boxer, and he's done some pretty incredible things. Multi-boxing 4 Leshaks, Balgorn, Damnation, and an Eos at the same time is no easy thing. And he's done things as crazy as hell-camped somebody for 3 days straight and evict a wormhole all by himself. He's an incredible
Wow.
player, and he's a one-man fleet.
What's his name?
His main account is Odiek. I'll put it in voice chat.
Oh, I've heard that name. Odiek. Okay. So he took out this revelation. The thing that put this on the spotlight is the revelation was worth a lot. Now, this is a revelation in wormhole space. You can expect revelations and dreadnoughts and capital ships. Not super capitals. They don't exist in wormhole space, but capital ships, which would be your carriers, your force auxiliaries, and your dreadnoughts, to be very expensive because this is the biggest thing they can put money into. So you would see these things dressed up pretty well. And this one was no exception.
At well over, way more than, say, $500 million per site, these dreadnoughts, people will bring their dreadnoughts in these wormhole sites because within 2 to 3 sites they can pay off a majority of a dreadnought cost, and it's just very popular for C6 and C5 money making in wormhole space.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to dip into yesterday's kills. I don't know if we got to them. We may have, but it looks like a Rorqual went down for Pandemic Horde. Verge Collapse snagged it. Red Alliance lost a Hell. That is a super capital. Triumvirate got that one. And Dragon Empire lost a Hell in Empire space. And that was taken out by Verge Collapse. So Verge Collapse actually picked off some good stuff yesterday. And then here you have, oh no, 6th Empire again in Aria, Jump Freighter. That was picked off by Lo Shechnia Shorpin, who are the Russian version of Wrecking Crew or Wrecking, whatever the whale hunters were that were in Derelict. I think it was Wrecking Crew, I think. A long time ago. They've changed since then. A couple more here, and then you have an Ark, which is also a jump freighter taken out. It belonged to Southern Legion Alliance, and that was destroyed by Domain Research Mining Institute. And we'll stop here with a Nyx being destroyed. That's a super carrier that belonged to Fraternity in Awasa, and it was taken out by Offline Corporation, and we bring that one up because Offline Corporation has, what is it, Van Buren?
Frederick von Hull.
Von Hull.
Their big game hunter, von Hull.
Right. So he's taken out another target. Takes one out like every 2 days at least. Okay. Close that up. Oh, we didn't go over the PCU and look at it. That's all right. It got up to 38,000 during the week. That's really good. Again, remember, we broke almost 42,000 on the weekend. So nice, healthy population, probably less bots, probably actually more people, a lot smoother time zone because you have Korean players playing now. And you also had some Chinese come 2 years ago. So EVE Online is looking more around the clock than ever. Looking at Ihubs, seeing if there's anything that's going to go get up for grabs in the next 2 days. And you do have Pandemic Horde has one in 11 hours. They need to defend in JZ TAC. That's Paragon Falls. We're also seeing Deckline Aquarius, Vale of the Silent. Lots in Vale of the Silent. You see 4 of them, all belonging to Forsaken Empire, and those are all going to go in about a day and 10 hours. And a couple more in Deckline. They belong to Siberian Squad. I think Siberian Squad hasn't been around that region for a while, at least since the fall of Dead Coalition. Unless they changed sides and kept their territory, which I'm not 100% sure about. But in Deckline, they have a couple of Ihubs that are being taken out. Why do we focus on Ihubs? Ihubs are the locks to systems that make the system and everything in it harder to destroy. At the structures that are in that system. So you really want to take out an Ihub before you take out the big structures. And so it is the lock that you have to unlock in order to take out the system. So this is where the pivotal fights are these days, at least for territory and dominance. All right, that's it for the stats. I'm going to have a look to see what's going on socially. At this time, you guys are free to walk among the here, walk around the cabin and relax. Wow. Okay. I just got my ears destroyed, Spod. I don't know what happened there. I think a Triglavian got you because I didn't understand any of that.
Mom.
That was loud. Yeah. Who let the Triglavian in?
I think like a little partial deafness in the morning.
You're right. That just better than coffee. All right. Let me bring this up here. Yeah, so you can see that tune into CCP today and the coming weeks for live streams on the art of EVE Online. The EVE Echoes release, that is on the 17th. Yeah, and then the EVE Effect and more. So I wonder what the EVE Effect presentation is going to be, if it's the same presentation Hilmar gave or if that's going to be a new one. So check out those dates. That's looks like all month.
Sorry about that. That's what happens when RTX voice goes haywire.
Yikes. I don't know what that is, but wild. Yeah, we're making fun of you being a Triglavian.
I didn't mean to, sorry.
It's fine. It just, I couldn't get to the mute in time. I got to put up a button that I can just get to it. Okay, we're just looking at Twitter. I was looking at Twitter. 4 tweets. That's hilarious. Yesterday we pointed out this guy, Valos, and as we were going through this segment of the show, and he's like, "Look, Mom, I'm famous." Hilarious. Yeah, you're famous again. Just talked about you again, Valos. Thank you. Good job.
He should post a picture of it again, and then we should cover him tomorrow.
Yeah. Just be recursive, like, yeah. All right. Low sex solo PvP March 30th of March. Well, that was a little while ago. Razorien. If those don't know Razorien, he's an artist. He makes some gorgeous EVE photos. Nicest guy in the world. He does travel to meet EVE players too, so he's been to meetups, including Las Vegas and I think FanFest and that sort of stuff. He also donated his work to be sold by CCP, which they did, and it went for, his artistry went for thousands of dollars to raise money for them. So he's learning CAD for EVE-related constructions. Now, if you're not familiar with Razorien, you really should be. He does some amazing artwork. Why don't we take a look at that?
Looks like he's planning some kind of sculpture thing.
Right, he actually does, it's not just Photoshop work he does. I do Photoshop work, but he does some kind of crazy programming to generate images. He starts with a good image, and then he uses programming to actually enhance it in a certain style. The super saturation. This is the actual image of, they made this into a poster. I believe it was this one. No, it was a Nix, actually. This is Hurricane. But the Nix went for, I think it was like $2,000 or $4,000 or something. And here's a Myrmidon. I don't know what these pictures are.
Strangely enough, I watched a presentation about generative art like that very recently.
Yeah.
It's quite clever. It's basically just a whole bunch of really interesting mathematics to generate these strange effects based on what you put into it. It's
Right.
not easy. Making it sound easy by saying, "Oh, yeah, it's just this submass that you plug things into," but it's really not. To make it actually look real nice, it's quite a task.
Yeah, he's again, he's not like a Photoshop guy like I would be. He's using equations and stuff to generate the stuff. But it's not just that. This looks like it was very artificial and built. But what he does with his enhanced work is he creates really good photography in EVE Online, and then is able to enhance that and make it beyond anybody else's capability. Let's have a look. I'll try to find some good stuff here.
I see the Myrmidon. He's like he's exported it from the game and he's turned the model into its sort of skeleton, its wireframe. Then you can see the individual white lines that make up the parts of the Myrmidon. He's sort of exploded color out of them. It's quite a nice effect.
Right. Like this is a sample of the actual photography, and then that super saturation, and you could see the right above this, what is that, Ragnarok Titan, you could see the Sino sitting there, and you really feel the scale in this picture. So we're talking about really good photography. If you're not familiar with Razorien, and that's Razorien, check him out on Flickr. Most people are by now. He's been around for 2 or 3 years and just made a huge impact.
I'm surprised nobody's done more with I can't remember what they called it. The CCP's WebGL thing. There's a few applications out there that let you load in models from the game and put custom backgrounds on them, put custom skins, do all kinds of crazy effects on them. I'm just surprised nobody ever went a bit further with that and tried to turn it into sort of like a movie making tool almost.
Well, there's a few artists that have played with models, but that's kind of a hidden talent, hidden art form. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. We did want to drill into some battles here. Well, the first one is in Providence. Do you know anything about this one?
A little bit.
B-WPLZ. That's hilarious. B-W, please, in Providence.
I think it kicked off, unless my information is wrong, in KBP, the sort of high-sec connection system. It's a system where you can jump directly from a 0.5 high-sec system called a Detal directly into Providence. It's often a contested region because of that sort of easy access route.
Well,
as far as I know, there was a Fortizar, or looking at the kill, it was a Fortizar that was reinforced and due to come out for its. Don't know whether it was the armor timer or hull, but I don't think it matters too much. And Provi Block had formed to attack it, and the owners and TRC and Wrecking Crew in general popped along to obviously defend it. And from what I've heard, it was relatively going Provi Block's way in the early times. They were using, I think, jackdaws to sort of dance around and keep the Fortizar locked down and keep damaging it while also not being killed. But at some point, something went horribly wrong, and RC decided, Wrecking Crew decided to drop the hammer in a form of a big super fleet and splattered what Providence had. So I think in the end it didn't go that well for Providence. In the sense of they got dropped the hammer on.
Yeah, they got dropped. Looks like they lost about 70 billion to their attackers were 25 billion, so they got like 25% efficiency, which means they lost more than their opponents. It does look like the hammer came in, because that's a lot of avatars.
I think it was to do with the team on the left side, Wrecking Crew, were using a lot of what they called rattlesnakes, and they started to lose a few. And they're quite expensive ships to lose, so I think that upset them and decided, well, we're going to have to end this fight now. And that was how they chose to do it.
Yeah, it's a hammer for sure. Regional hammer. Yeah, I think normally you don't put this much effort into it unless there's something for those Titans to shoot. So I don't know if it was just to defend their rattlesnakes they were losing. It could have been. But they probably were being lost to something big like dreadnoughts here. And that's a big enough target then to escalate, because it's like, you're not going to drop a big super fleet unless you're defending a structure or doing something that needs to happen, unless there's some target that's beefy enough for you to to have your guys get a piece of. And so when you drop a group of dreads, that may be like enough excuse to bring in bigger things.
Well, it's like the old cartoons where it's one person pulls out a jackdaw, so the other one pulls out a rattlesnake, so then they pull out a dreadnought, and then the next escalation is super.
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny whipping out a knife and then a gun and then a cannon and a, I
don't forget a big rocket. That was the last one. Yeah. But you see FCs from Brave Alliance and, Severance and, Requiem is Legacy. So you see some Legacy in here, and that's probably what made the target big enough to go after. Providence pounded on by, what do we call these guys? They seem to be working together, so they need to have some kind of name.
Is that the Providence with Brave and Test people?
Well, no, that's
the other side.
The other side needs a name because they have honorable third party.
That's Wrecking Crew.
Well, Wrecking Crew and allies, right?
I don't know whether they're directly members or allies. I know honorable third party. I think Dread Bomb, Templis, Purple Helmet, and Domain and TRC kind of count as Wrecking Crew. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's sort of like the rough who's who.
But isn't Wrecking Crew?
So for the most part, that is them.
Aren't they an actual alliance name?
No, it's a coalition.
Oh, well. Oh, so when you refer to RC, it's not. I for some reason thought it was a formal alliance. So okay, so Wrecking Crew, all of those guys, Dread Bomb.
There's the confusion, I think, in that one of the member alliances of Wrecking Crew is TRC.
The
Rogue
Consortium. Okay. As a part of the coalition Wrecking Crew that is hanging out in Providence, making it rough on Provi block.
That's going to be a bad day for a Provi block that's quite a good chunk of capitals, and Provi have never been known for having a lot of capitals to hand, so to lose so many is not very nice.
Yeah, they know better than to chum the waters by sacrificing big ships. That's why they don't really have a super capital arsenal. They just don't want people coming to pick it off. So the less they provide shiny ships to destroy, the less they're a target. But this is an exception. Okay, so that's Providence. Let's have a look at Pure Blind. Well, this was a relatively stinging loss for Goon Swarm. Pun intended. They got a 15% efficiency, so they got wiped. And I think I heard about this yesterday, right after it happened, in that Northern Coalition and Horde essentially pinned this FC's fleet between them and was able to annihilate them. So they were probably looking for a fight and didn't find one initially. And on their way out, taking evasive action, they got walloped by what looks like a capital drop, because you see Horde dropped a ton of Thanatos carriers. So no supers that I can detect, but definitely those were a carrier squad, or I don't know how many those are. It's like 20. Dropped on, what do they got here? Maulers? Sacrileges. So sacrileges. Yeah, Northern Coalition got them with the Feroxes. Those are cheap, fast ships, so they were able to cut them off, and then the Capitals came in from Horde and finished them off. Some interesting criticism of Goon Swarm happened on this 4-hour show called The Wrecking Crew last night. You can find that on, I believe, the Wrecking Crew Twitch. And you had FCs from, about 7 or 8 FCs, all from different parts of EVE, but they really started talking about Goon Swarm and how Goon Swarm chokes off activity, and it's very clicky. So if you're not friends with the main FCs, you really have no traction. And, it's all from their own perspectives. It's not fact. This is just their perspectives. And of course, a lot of them were in Goon Swarm and have left to start their own thing, to have their own style of fun. So that was, again, the show called Trash Talk Tuesday. So I'll put that in chat now. I didn't see it all, but I was trying to get through it. All right, that's all we have for the news. But I want to open it up to discussion time. If you guys want to talk about some things, you have anything? Right. So there is somebody in here who is running for, am I allowed to say this, CSM Komi? Is that you?
Yeah, it's a little difficult. So officially, I'm just the representative of Komi, because let's be real, how could an EVE Online character interact in the real world?
Ah, I think I got you.
Oh, it's a roleplay thing.
Yeah, right. So Komi is the character that is going to run for CSM, and you are its consciousness, is the way that we see it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, tell us about, well, first of all, we're electing people to the CSM, so tell us about yourself first. What country are you from, and how long you've been playing EVE and things like that?
Okay, so I joined EVE in 2011, I think, and I'm 20 years old from Germany. So yeah, basically I played from 2011 to 2013, I think, and I started in high sec, like did things like mission running, and then ended up in a big German alliance, and was like the logistics chief and moving stuff around and coordinating freighters and whatnot. So it was a very interesting time. Of course, I did a lot of small gang PvP too. But yeah, then like my real life got a little complicated, and I quit EVE. And in 2014, I think I came back for, I don't know, some months and quit again. And yeah, now my life is in order. And finally, 4 months ago, I created this character with like the goal of role playing a character in the EVE universe, because yeah, it's exciting. And to be true, I didn't care much about like the but just about the player interaction and having fun with other people. And yeah, so that's like my real life side.
Okay, tell us about Komi then.
Oh, Komi.
What would he say to CCP and CSM if he were able to sit at that table when they're making decisions on, or when they're talking to the development of the universe, as Komi knows it?
So basically, maybe I should say why I apply for CSM and like what I think I can bring to Eve that maybe no other person can, or I won't say that, maybe no other people who are like CSM candidates right now like have thought of. And maybe just if I give you and the public, the listeners, an idea, maybe it can change. So I see Eve, let's say, as an experience, and you have the game on the one side, and you have the world, the universe, and the players. So I think you can divide it into a lot more things. But while many discussions always evolve around like game mechanics, I want to focus especially on like the world or the universe. And I can maybe talk a little about how could things like be changed. And basically I think I have a lot of time. I'm working like a part-time job as an application developer, so
Cool.
I have like lots of time and think I can do this job. I'm not sure about your question because you asked what would Komi do, and
well,
this is
he would be communing with the gods, wouldn't he? The creators of the
she
universe.
would basically.
Oh, she would.
do that.
Sorry, yeah.
But I mean, she is on a regular basis because like all other players are capsuleers too. And I decided, and this is interesting, to play as a baseliner, which means basically just a human being. And
Ooh.
for example, let's say my pod gets shot, then I will delete the character, and Komi will basically die.
Oh no!
It's like hardcore Eve. I don't
Hard
know.
mode. That is hardcore Eve. So your character will not clone. It will. You will lose the character if she is shot and destroyed.
Yeah, but please don't shoot me. So yeah, and I mean this brings really like the adrenaline rush of like if you are in a fight and you really don't want to die because you don't want to delete this character. So I do a lot of nullsec exploration, and I jumped into a gate camp and I was, oh shit, oh no, I don't want her to die. And I made it out. This was the good part, but it's
Extra
just
incentive.
a personal thing. So I like the thrill and thought, it's cool. Why not? Why not do it like this? And I've met a few other people that actually do the same thing. So this is really cool. We are like a small gang of mortals.
I like this. So you've been playing since with Komi has been around in as a pilot since 2019. So she survived for several months now.
Exactly. And she will survive for some more months. Depends on how aggressive you guys go on me and try to kill me. So actually, it's really cool because like this one CSM applicant, Jurius Doctor, he is from how is it called? Nullsechner Chalupen. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but like he set a 1 billion bounty on my head, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Finally, someone is like playing this thing out with me, because let's be real, if you are all like crazy capsuleers and there would be one normal person that normally you wouldn't even look at or bother thought, you would just like be like, yeah, okay, drop the ISK, kill her, please.
Well, what's Komi feel like to have so much money put on her head? She's just immortal.
Oh yeah, this is really interesting too. And for me personally, like, I don't care. You can drop any bounty you want on my head. And I think this is something that people in the forums, I'm not sure if I confused them with this in-character thing, but they went crazy like, oh my god, why do you care about a 1 billion bounty? But like for Komi, it means a lot because basically now she has to look out if she is like, let's say, on a station and just hanging out with other people. Like everybody could kidnap her because for the normal population in Eve, lower wise, like 1 billion is just unimaginable. So I'm not exactly sure about this, but I mean, like, the yearly average income was like 1,000 ISK or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe even lower on some planets. And so this is interesting for the role play, but also a little difficult to interact with other people, let's say.
Yeah, it is. And ISK is incredibly valuable, and we just bathe in it as capsuleers. But for baseliners, it's a lot of money. Even just one ISK is a lot of money. Wild. So where do you reside? Do you explore all over the place, or maybe you shouldn't tell me where you actually, what systems you're, what region you run around in?
Yeah. So basically, like, I'm using the needlejack filaments, and they are actually a really cool way to explore because, like, you can travel in these different regions of nullsec and surprise the people. Actually, it's really funny because I found this little bug that hides my profile. So if you open my profile in game, it will just be blank. And let's say I jump into a system with like 13 people in local. Sometimes they really go crazy because they are like, oh my god, we don't have any intel on this person. Of course, you can open up the kill board and see all the stuff. But it's really funny. So I'm just having my fun, flying around, talking to all kinds of different people.
Oh, has Komi killed anyone?
No, she is a pacifist. So she has not even shot an NPC ship. She has killed a drone, but
that was self-defense.
Yeah, not a ship with like people on board. So she's totally innocent.
So she's a pacifist baseliner, and you're playing in hard mode by controlling her consciousness. Aren't you nervous that in the middle of your campaign that she might expire?
Yeah, it could happen. So really, I'm a little concerned now because, like, I know sometimes the game is really slow on my computer, and let's say I can undock and a tornado could kill me probably. And I had to delete the character. So going in public is like, for Komi, it's very dangerous. But that's just her. She likes to get into trouble.
She does. Okay. What would she say to the governments in Empire space and the way they've constructed the world? What is something that she would want to put attention to, or what are some of her complaints about the way life is in New Eden?
Oh, that's interesting. I thought you would like ask me more like questions like that are normal for a CSM to answer. Because if I give Komi's perspective, I have to step in character, you know?
Oh.
And I cannot talk about the game like I would like from my personal perspective.
Okay, well, we don't have to. You don't have to step into character because I don't. I
Okay.
don't want you to feel the pressure of having to imitate her or to speak in her voice necessarily. But you, as we'll call you her patron or something. What are some of the things that you concern yourself with in the game, and what are some of the things that need some attention versus some of the things that get too much attention? Where are you in terms of CSM policy and CSM advising?
Oh,
in other words,
that's
what would you do if you get on CSM?
Okay, so I mean, I see the role of the CSM like not to dictate anything, but more like to inspire or criticize the way CCP is doing stuff.
Right.
So I think you need, I don't know, knowledge about the game, of the technology, of the players, and then you can like mash it together. And
Okay, what players do you know about?
oh, so I mean, I, let's say, have a basic knowledge of like every aspect, I would say. But for example, I have not the experience that some of you guys might have, because the largest fleet I was ever in was like 30 people. I don't know. The largest fleet I commanded was like 7 people. And so from like the whole big scale warfare mechanics, I'm not really qualified to talk about this.
That's okay. There's like 9 guys on the CSM that do that kind of work. What dimension
Yeah,
could you
exactly.
bring? Yeah, what do you bring that they wouldn't have?
Yeah, so for example, I have picked like something from the past. So if, let's say, CCP wanted to introduce like a new feature, let's call it citadels, because we already have them. And basically they have all this mechanics and everybody would discuss about them, but I think they are missing a very important part, and that is like the whole lore of the Eve universe. Because before citadels, which are constructed by, let's say, Upwell, which is some kind of corporation, like we had like control towers which are like designed by the 4 empire factions. So if I were in the CSM right then, I would probably have said something like, yeah, well, it's cool, but can we please have like citadels for the factions? I mean, it's a little more work for the modeling guys. And I mean, they gave us this with like the faction fortizas, right? But I don't know, it feels kind of wrong, because you see like everywhere in space those Raitarus rising up, and if you are lucky you will see a faction Fortiza in Nullsec somewhere if you are exploring like me. But I think yeah, this like kills the immersion of the game.
Yeah.
Unless CCP really wants to bring the empires down, you know, then it's totally okay. But I think the thing is like streamlining, and this isn't just for like the citadels and the bosses. So I see there's a tendency for the game to get like streamlined, more narrow. So yeah, I don't know, it affects like a lot of different things, and I think it is good to remove some complexity. But like if too much complexity is removed, it's not always good. So yeah.
You like the what we call the geography of Eve, where there are lots of little places and little things to do, a lot of mechanics to explore, a lot of variety in things that you can get yourself intertwined with.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Eve is about the variety. We have like so many things. You can have like PvP, small gang, large, PvE, market exploration, role play, industry, PI. You can like do the metagaming stuff, or even like you can do the same thing but multi-box it, and then it's a whole other experience. So like Eve is very diverse, but like from my perspective, it gets narrower and narrower. Really, maybe because I don't care about the mechanics so much. But yeah, for example, like posses are really cool. I have just built a posse, and I really like it to like mess around with all those guns. You can place them wherever you want.
So
Just on the moons.
Komi built the pause, or some other character?
Yeah, she did, but then I had to switch my corp, and I created a new corp, and then I was like, oh, I have to wait 7 days before I can anchor a structure with a new corp. So yeah, I was a little surprised. So my post tower is now sitting in an in the station.
Don't say where. Hi, Caleb. Good
I
morning.
mean, it's easy to find out, but
Caleb Spot, I found a baseliner. A baseliner for those. Baseliner is a normal human in EVE Online. Yeah,
I see. So if you're dead, you're dead.
exactly.
You just get some repeat regions running.
From now on, I have to create insta undock spots on every high-sec station I ever visit, and I can only stay in one system for like 10 minutes, probably.
You said there are
Yeah.
more of you, so is there like a secret society of baseliners?
Yeah, so like some role players, some of them have like multiple accounts. They have like, yeah, okay, we just create this baseliner character. And it's interesting because it is really, you don't want it to die. You have invested so much time and like character building for this character. And then like everything, for example, like going to low sec just to do your PI stuff or something, like is really a very interesting thing to do because you have so much on the stake and nobody knows about it. Because
So it's like you're heightening your senses. It's almost like Caleb, you know something about this? It's like kind of like arousal or something.
I'd like to know how do you actually do that RP wise and mechanically do make a baseline and non enhanced player.
Yeah, so
hardcore EVE, right?
I mean, it's just like a thing everybody can do. So basically, theoretically, every character you create is a capsuleer. So I have found some ways to avoid that. First thing is always wear like dresses and clothing that doesn't reveal like your implants. And I don't use implants like probably I could because no one would ever notice, but as long as I'm alive. But I said no implants, no. What did I want to say? Like no clone bay usage, and yeah, you are fine. But let's say I'm a very extreme example of this. So other persons I've met, they would probably use like a clone bay to transfer the character to another different location.
And it's your honor that you're going to kill yourself and biomass your character if you get killed, right? Because the game doesn't really allow you to do hardcore mode where when you die, you die.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I have said it and I will do it. And yeah, maybe if you shoot me and I can maybe clone Komi from her dead body if you sell it me for like 1 billion ISK or something. But yeah, that's a little sketchy. I don't know. I'm not sure about this.
Well, if you escape in your pod, you still get to survive, right? It's when the pod
exactly.
Okay.
So I did this I did exploration and I found like a ghost site in high sec. It was like on my first week of playing, and I was like, yeah, I remember those. I can hack 3 containers, and then yeah, when I hacked the 3rd container, like a fleet showed up and I blew up. So the crew that was on my ship, because like every time I fly, I grab some freedom fighters or like Marines and stuff them into my cargo hold, and this is basically my crew. And yeah, 3 people died that day, and Komi survived.
You stuck him in your cargo.
Story.
Oh,
yeah, and this is really like impacting the game because I like have a cyclone and I cannot fly it properly because like the crew that I need to fly it takes up all the space for like the how are they called, the capacitor boost battery thingies. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, my ancillary shield boosters can't reload properly.
So do you actually put?
I'm sure that CCP Rise appreciates your RP. Maybe you can even get him to make a specific setting, so if you die, you actually do die.
They've talked about that a lot over the years. It was considered hardcore mode.
Yeah, he's been mumbling on that thing a lot.
I just always thought that was a good idea, and it's nice to see that players are making it happen on their own.
Yeah, you should try it on your own with like a character.
I'm going to try it. This is I hadn't thought about it, but it's like going to be my new kink, Caleb.
Yeah.
Yay! No kink shaming.
I was laughing with Joe Silva. It's like erotic asphyxiation. It heightens all your
Wow,
senses.
you're really going there today. You're expanding your mind or something. Have you found some website that... Are you on FetLife now, Manuel?
I don't even know what that is, but I just had coffee, so...
Okay, so you haven't expanded that much yet. But
no,
it's fine.
Just caffeine one step at a time. No, but this is great. This is, go ahead.
This is something on topic instead of...
Yeah.
With like the baseliner stuff. So if you're a baseliner, how do you deal with as far as I know, the story fact that the reason our ships are so good in comparison to NPC number 7 is because Capsuleers they're super duper intelligent, super strong, super awesome in all the ways. Like, surely your ship shouldn't be anywhere near as good as it is because you're not a Capsuleer.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So I haven't thought about this actually. Probably should have. But let's say I just have a very good crew compared to like a normal crew. I don't know.
Why not?
Okay.
But yeah, actually, like while in nullsec, so I have like built my ship to escape. So I have like all the stuff you really don't want to see in PvP, like a burst gemma and multiple warp core steps on my Stratios. So basically, all I do is escape. But I'm not sure if how you would do it from like from this perspective if you were actually doing like PvP. I'm not sure. Maybe only use Tech 1 modules?
Well, I thought that you were sticking like livestock and characters in your cargo bay to represent the crew.
Yeah, exactly. This is why my Stratios has like cargo expanders, because I need to have place for the loot.
Yeah.
And ship crew is a very rare item in game. You can buy like 10 ship crew for 40 million, so it's a really good ISK sink. And I mean, this is the hardest part, like to get rid of the ISK, because as a baseliner, normally you don't have like, let's say, 100 million in your bank account. So I like created this organization that produces salvage drones and just drops them on the market for like less cost that it would be to produce them. So I sell them for 12,000 ISK, and yeah, it's really interesting because like all the money I get that I don't need for some expensive modules or for like the POS I was building, and you really get a lot of money if you do nullsec exploration. I just like invest into buying all the minerals from the market and producing salvage drones. So yeah, that's really funny.
And that's wild. So you're going through the galaxy, making your way, trying not to get knocked off. You do have to live in a pod because there's no way CCP has allowed you to do that. But you know what this does, and this is something that I take more seriously than the jokes that I was making earlier about caffeine and stuff, is the consciousness and how you relate to your character. Like, we don't have avatars to run around to say, there's my being with legs and arms and
yeah, we had at one point, so
yeah, and people wanted that for a long time. They really wanted avatars. They thought more players would come to EVE Online that could recognize themselves in their avatar, but that just never happened because technological reasons and focus of the game. But there is something about bonding with the consciousness of your character, albeit a temporary character like yours or a more permanent character like a Capsuleer. And then what happens when you have a bunch of alts? What happens that's that bonding?
Yeah, exactly. It's like really like it's not the same if you play it from like a role-playing perspective, because like everything you do, especially if you interact with other role players, like it really means something. So for the story, let's say. So it's not like you are fighting and then it's done. Maybe it's you are fighting and the other person blows up, and then the person comes back for revenge, and like I think it's really interesting to play Eve in that way, because the lore is really good, and there are a lot of role players around that like will play with you basically. Because if you are all alone, you can say, "Yeah, I'm Komi, I'm a baseliner, whatever." But like it's not the same if you do it with other persons. And there's one thing that I think I heard it here on the show some weeks or months ago. But you someone was talking about Eve is like a science fiction movie you watch with 1,000 other people, and every guy can interact with the movie to create like a new movie. And I thought this was like really inspiring. And yeah.
But from an RP perspective, don't you handicap yourself even more with the whole baseline and narrative? Because fundamentally, 99% of all other RPers would find you slightly disgusting and that you shouldn't be allowed to exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible
Especially
capsuleer.
the Ama role players. So
Terrible.
yeah,
But isn't that better? I mean, because you're seeing someone who wants to be a common person, a commoner among the galaxy, and everybody that role plays, one of the stigmas is they're always royalty, or they're always some high position, or some like they're trying to make up for something that doesn't exist in real life.
yes, but not like always. So I think
Yeah.
there's not everybody is the same, right? And not everybody
Sure.
has the same motivations to do stuff. So and I
Good
thought
point.
it would be like really interesting to be like on the bottom of this whole hierarchy, and like to just try to live life as a baseliner in this universe, which is like very hostile to anything that can die, basically. And yeah, I thought it would be funny. It didn't go as I expected it to go, because
Well, you're still
let's say,
alive.
the character, she's like not like a Mary Sue, but she's always lucky, and always the stuff happens that she wants to happen. And yeah, that's a little sad, but please don't kill me to change that. Yeah.
It's the old protagonist syndrome, isn't it? When you watch a new cartoon and they show like a room of all the potential characters, you know which one it is because it's the one with the spiky hair and sad
Yeah.
look because his parents are dead and he's got a secret.
Well, yeah, and you're right to correct me, actually, and well taken that not everybody does RP for different reasons and stuff. But one of the stigmas that I was talking about is that normally people fictionalize themselves in prominent ways, not as commoner ways. But what I like about that, and this is something I relate to very much, because I talk about the potential of meeting people, the potential of building a reputation, the potential is more important than the reality. For instance, you don't move to a city to meet the entire city or to become the mayor of that city, but you move to a city to have the potential to have meaningful relationships. And living in a city with more people allows you more possibility, more potential for meeting people and having a variety of experiences. All right, that wasn't
It's
a
just
question,
still
was it?
freakish, right? It's a little bit like when you play pen and paper. There's always like these fringe types that say, "Why don't you just play it without the dice?" It's like, but seriously, it's not the same thing. Get out. It's like this Amdram. What's it called? Theater thing when you do things on the fly. It's like that's not my pen and paper. I want my fireballs and I want to kill shit.
So basically, this is maybe a little interesting because, like, currently with like a small group of other role players, we had this idea to just like play Eve out, like, let's say, a pen and paper game with dice and all this stuff. And so the background is basically Komi had to flee from Vale, from a Gurista station, and basically, like, what happens is she gets like so some bounty hunters try to find her because of the high bounty, of course, and they have to flee the station. And yeah, so say I thought it would be really cool if we could just like declare a game master who sets like the environment of the station, like maybe they go through like a crowded marketplace at the ports or whatever. Maybe they there are some, oh, I don't know the English word, some barriers like on the way they have to overcome. And I think this is a really cool idea. So there are games like, I don't know, how is it called? Not Cyberpunk. It's
Say it in German.
I don't know the German name. So Shadow something. It's like this cyberpunk dystopian like pen and paper game, I think.
Oh, is Astarothi here?
Shadowrun,
Shadowrun.
right?
Yeah, that's high fantasy converted into sci-fi.
Yeah. So of course without like the magic stuff, but yeah, I thought this would be a really cool idea to just
No, it's got magic. That's the point. It's basically converting high fantasy into a sci-fi environment. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
You have trolls and ogres and orcs and whatnot, and you can play them all, and you can do magic while running around with implants. Well, the more implants, the less likely you are to actually be able to do magic. So.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
Astarothi showed up. How's it going? We found a baseliner. Her name is Komi Valentine. She is running for CSM, or at least her God, I don't know. What's the relationship?
Yeah, she is running for CSM. So
Consciousness.
I'm only the representative or the consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
I just woke up. I'm going to bed. This is too much. No, how's it going, guys?
This is stuff that you're very interested in, role playing and baselining. Again, if you don't know, for those that are joining us late, is you play your character as a civilian, let's say, as a common person. So if Komi her ship is exploded, she escapes in her pod, and if that doesn't work and the pod gets destroyed, she is dead, and she will delete the character.
I will go to Doomheim, or she will.
So that's basically what was described a few years ago as hard mode of EVE Online, where you don't get a second chance if you don't escape. Right. So, but on the serious side of things, it's all serious. Pardon my language. I got to calibrate my own thinking to like understand other people. But this is for CSM, right? This Council of Stellar Management itself is something of a role play organization in that it's titled, it's got news, I think, in the game when people are elected. It has trappings of RP in it. The reality of it is player representatives go to EVE Online to sit through presentations and to give presentations. They inform the company on where players are, and they are informed about some of the things they're thinking of developing. So they're a sounding board for new features and new directions in the game. Why is it that more players like you aren't usually on CSM? They used to be. Jade Constantine used to be on CSM, was on the first one. That was a giant name in the game, CEO of an industrial corporation, but also a very well-known orator or writer in the forums and the player. So do we need that kind of representation back in CSM as far as you're concerned?
I think the CSM needs or let's say more people that are running for the CSM should also maybe be in the mindset that they care about the lore or the universe of Eve itself. I cannot really, because I don't know some of them. I cannot talk if this is the case or if it isn't. But I think maybe it's more tied to game mechanics and implementing new stuff, and the universe part always goes a little back into the background. Um, so but the universe is very necessary for the game itself. So otherwise we would be playing with flying cubes in the dark space. So nobody wants to play this game. It's all about spaceships and sci-fi, and this is what gives Eve the unique flair and or let's say the character. And I heard some people say that Eve has lost its character over time.
Oh yeah.
I will not judge if this is true or false. But yeah, so basically, I would like CSM members to consider the universe lore stuff and don't see it as a joke, because it isn't. Because without it, we would flying with cubes in a dark space. And that's my point I wanted to make.
Yeah. I don't know how anyone that is new to CSM running can possibly win unless they've already made a reputation for themselves, because it's really all about name recognition. When people arrive at the ballot, who do they recognize when they don't know who to vote for? Half the people are already coming with a name and a list of people they need to vote for, and they're just going to do that because they don't want to go through the pain of thinking about who to vote for. Other people who are open-minded will say, I'm going to see who's on this list that I can vote for. And the only people they're going to recognize are through name recognition for something in the game.
But it's also that the law people, well, if that's the only thing you're doing, right, or mainly what you're doing, if you're mainly RPing, if you're mainly interested in law and stuff like that, maybe there's not really that much use for you on the CSM, because currently the CSM's main thing is this almost like red team specialized group that CCP can present ideas and concept and then do the whole back and forth, right? Whereas ironically, the law guys have a much easier, close route to CCP, right? I think Ash will most likely see what I'm talking about. If you're part of things like Arataka, if you're actively out there doing law and RP stuff, the law guys in CCP will naturally and automatically engage with you and listen to you, right? You don't necessarily need to get elected on the CSM, and I think because of the type of conversation that goes on the CSM, the whole law thing and focusing on law would be like you might be asked something once at a meeting and that's about it, because the rest of the time people are discussing other matters that do not really have any relevance with law.
But it's not. I don't think he's coming on as a lore representative or wishing to. It's more reminding the company CCP they're developing a sim as opposed to a video game as well. Sure, it's a video game. It's electronic. It's on your computer. It's delivered a certain way. It has characteristics of a video game. It's also an MMO with thousands of people play around the world, many of them imagining themselves in an immersive environment. I'm not talking about maybe PvPers and nullsec and that sort of stuff, because I doubt those guys are going pew, pew, pew when they're shooting their lasers. They're actually just being competitive, but we're talking about other people that like exploration, that like building organizations and that sort of stuff. Like, the game is also a place to live virtually.
May I retort to that?
Sure.
To me, that argument sounds very similar to saying that, like, if your main thing is Tech 3 production, then you don't know about mechanics because you only focus on Tech 3 production. And so the story, the lore, what's going on, and all that stuff is an incredibly complex thing. And most of the people that are engaging with it that I know are not doing it in spite of or at the detriment of understanding of game mechanics. I spent 4 years in this game at least before I even started touching it because of how like unapproachable it is often. So the people who do get into it have actually dug past and and have it as an extension of their knowledge of all of the systems of the game. Often it's like trying to understand why things are the way that they are, not just that things are the way that they are.
But then that's usually included in their platform, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, it is important to have CSM people who have enough knowledge that they can give feedback that isn't useless by how narrow-minded it is for whatever reason. But I would also say that there is a lot of really small wins that could be made that would make it so that the story and whatnot is way more accessible to people. A really good example that I like to give to CCP frequently is that if the fiction portal was somehow on the front view, like if you could get to the fiction portal from the launcher, or if the Eve news was on the launcher, any of those things. World news happens once to twice every week or two. Things are happening all the time, and they correspond with in-game stuff, by the way. So there are things happening in game that you can go check out and see that maybe last only a couple of days here and there. But it's all leading to something. But here's the thing. We need a representative that's in there telling CCP that this stuff is important, that people need to know about it, and help them identify where players are failing to catch on to what CCP is trying to do. And in my opinion, that's just as important as having a representative that knows how jump mechanics work.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily disagree with that, especially considering that CCP have been focusing a lot on making more NPE content, right? And the whole NPC side of things. If that is to have any value or meaning in the game, they should definitely focus more on how they deliver the lore. To me, it feels a little bit like what happened with CCP is that some years ago, they kind of stopped pushing more and more on that whole aspect. It feels like it's a bit like if you take something like a Square Enix game and remove all the cutscenes. It's like, because, well, it's not worth the effort. It's like, okay, then it's not a Square Enix game anymore, right? So there's something missing in EVE Online when it comes to presenting all the deep cosmological lore in the game. You would have expected them to actually start pushing that, and instead of just having written chronicles, you would have actual cutscenes or mini sequences or mini documentaries about all this stuff, right? But they never upgraded it in a massive way. And I think that's a little bit of a loss.
I buy video games to have my son play the game so I can watch the cutscenes. Like, I want the story.
Yeah, I like to just sit by and watch someone play really good games just to follow their progression and see the universe. It's not necessarily, I don't necessarily need the gaming experience. So I definitely agree on that point. And I would have loved to see some massive lore stuff from CCP, especially of the old lore, right?
Two quick things about that. One, there's a new scope video coming this week, or at least very, very soon. So that's really exciting. But also, I'm going to hijack top comment to say if you see 10 or more Rasnaborg, Damavix, and Kikis anywhere in New Eden with no E-War at all, so it's all just Rasnaborg and Damavix, no ghostings, no nothing, just the Rasnaborgs, and they're not an emerging conduit, let me know right away. There's something happening.
All right.
Interesting.
Okay, so Komi, very nice to meet you. We can continue to talk here if you guys want in a second. I have to go silent and off screen. Do you guys want to continue? If not, we'll just
I
wrap
wanted
up.
to make a point about why role players in particular.
So that's a yes.
Well,
We're going to go ahead. We're going to continue this discussion. Hang out with us. We're going to go on until the topic is exhausted. But this is fascinating, and I'll try to contribute if I can. I'm just going to go off screen. Let's go. Go ahead, Spod. Go ahead.
I'm just going to use the term role players as an overarching to say people that heavily interact with lore, or people that literally type /me does a thing, etc. It's almost, I think the reason it's disappeared from the CSM, of course, a lot of it is the voting habits have changed, but a lot of it is also that roleplay is dying. It's not going to die, but it's disappearing. I used to be quite heavily involved in roleplay and other games in the mid 2000s, and that population is just gone. It's not something people engage in anymore. It's not something that's that popular anymore. I know Eve, when it first came out, was so heavily roleplay focused. You know, you had to train a certain skill to be able to join a certain corp because you didn't match the race. The races mattered, and all of that's gone. And I don't think it's not a game mechanic's fault. It's not a developer's fault. It's just happened naturally over time.
Well, I'd say it's actually partly the game developer's fault. If they don't reward this, it's a bit like playing with an ASPI game master that doesn't give a shit about story. It's like just pulling you through a pre-made prefab scenario, and it's only focused on the roles and who gets to do what and who. That's just bad, right? That's exactly what happened. Every developer out there focuses on making the player base that just grinds happy. That feels like what happened to me.
Potentially, but there still are those games. There's still stuff like I'll just give the example that I used to be involved in was Gary's Mod. Gary's Mod is still a very popular game, but the number of people that play that game to go play on the game servers where you get to play as a character in Star Wars or whatever they want to play as, that community is not what it used to be. It's still there, but if you just look all around in all the different games that do support such things, they're just not as popular. And I suppose in some ways it's just a generational shift. I don't participate in that kind of stuff anymore because I don't mean to make it sound rude, but I personally grew out of it. I don't enjoy it anymore. And I think a lot of people went that way. And then the next generation never got into it in the first place. So this whole roleplay thing is just sort of fizzling out slowly.
Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And it's not even necessarily generational, or even the fact that you don't want to play anymore. It's just that when no one really plays anymore, when no one puts effort into actually doing RP, even if it's like only soft RP that I pretty much claim that most Eve players do anyways, where they're just RPing without knowing it. But if there is no support, if the developers don't support it, if the community itself does not keep supporting each other in meaningful ways, and if there's not any support from even the non-RPing player base, it gets completely sidelined, because then it's valueless, right? So take a horrible example. There's a limit to how many times you would officially want to save the damsel, because now it's not making sense anymore, right? So then you stop grinding that kind of stuff because you've already done it, right? You wouldn't want to repeat quests as an RPer, because that doesn't really make any sense. And when you're engaging with other players that don't necessarily RP, you also might want to eventually minimize that, because that just pulls you out of character, right? And then you lose the immersion, right? So there's just so many reasons why RP has died off, and it is a loss. I think the game would be better if more people were engaged in some level of RP.
So I would argue that in EVE Online, every person is RPing, regardless of whether or not they choose to be.
Yeah, I wrote that too, but
maybe I can give you an interesting example. I feel a little bad because it evolves around my character again. But like when I found this bug that hides my profile completely, I like set up in character, of course, like in the bug report forum thing. Basically, I blackmailed, you could say, Concord to give me 1 billion ISK, and I will submit the bug to them. I mean, it's a completely legal, as Caldari legal bug bounty I thought of, and so basically. Of course they didn't do it, and I didn't care about the ISK in any way. So I like followed up with a support ticket. Hey, can you give my character -10 standing for blackmailing Concord or whatever? And it went through like 4 different GMs, and everybody was like, no, we cannot do that. And basically a game master like needs to be a master of the game. I don't understand CCP's decision of not allowing this interaction, because for me personally, it would be the greatest thing ever, you know? And for them, it would be just like, yeah, okay, -10, here you go, bye. And so
Every-
maybe CCP should focus a little more on those specific things too.
So I want to talk about lore all the time, but has anybody looked at Hobo Leaks this morning?
What?
What
No.
happened? I think I refreshed mine
Huge.
this morning, but nothing
It's-
was in there.
It's huge.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it right now. We're still on this lore thing. We'll talk about.
Well, okay.
I know it has some tie-in.
Oh my god, yes.
Okay, sure.
What the fuck?
All right, then go ahead.
Paging Dr. Fonsui, please dissect this shit.
Mm.
Okay,
Basically,
No. So, but the thing is that when I say that everybody's role playing, the reason why I say that is because you don't need to emote what you're doing in the game. You're playing an immortal capsuleer that's separated from everybody else through cyber interfaces and kind of controls the world around them in that way. And so if you give a shit about baseliners and pay attention to the presidential election, which just ended, by the way, we're going to have a new president in about 2 days.
Galente,
2 or 3
that
days.
is. Galente
Yep,
president.
the first female of Yinmei origin of the Galente Federation. Congratulations to her. It was her 3rd attempt. Celis Agard. And because of this, we may actually get a gate from the main high sec to Solitude. Can't tell yet,
wow.
but that was her major campaign promise. But
it won't be Solitude after that.
I know, right? You could care about that if you want to, or you could not. You're an immortal space angel that flies around in spaceships that are worth more than some empires. So, but if you don't, and you just manage your PI and don't think about anything and smash spaceships together and treat it like a game, well, immortality has an effect on people, and the post-human condition has a tendency to make us into monsters. This is a sci-fi game, is exploring sci-fi concepts, which often we use fantasy and sci-fi to examine parts of ourselves, our culture, the human nature in a way that's kind of protected from like talking about real life stuff. We can talk about the Galente real life presidential election and feel okay about it. But what it does is it allows, if you are the monster, if you are treating it like a game, then that's fine. The rest of the universe responds accordingly, right? You're still playing your role.
Solitude Gate, I think, will be taken out by rebels, looks like.
First step to Gate Stain.
Yeah.
Actually, I have like a point that isn't like this lower role play heavy. Can I talk about it maybe?
Sure.
It's just an idea. So because like I thought, like do you remember what kind of motivation you had when you started Eve? So for me personally, it was like, I'm a big sci-fi fan, so oh yeah, I will just be like this pirate whatever guy and blow things up and maybe be a bounty hunter. At that point, I didn't know much about the game. So and it was basically like everything was new and unknown. It was really dangerous. It was like full of wonderful things or funny things, whatever. And it was about like finding a place in this universe. And I thought about this a lot, especially like about the thing that everything is new and unknown, and what like this means for you, and like what gameplay mechanics could achieve like this feeling again. And I had a very interesting idea that I just wanted to promote and bring out into the world. So, for example, let's take the resource distribution. This is like a way you don't know if I don't know how it will be implemented, but I imagine it like, yeah, we have those resources now. We are not sure if we have the same resources next month or next year or next week, whatever. So like this brings a little bit of those like emotions maybe back that are like, I think for me personally, they are really core to the Eve experience. And then I thought about the best idea ever, and this is totally like unpolished, but I think how about like we have this cool faction in the game. They are called the Rook drones, and the story is basically they are AI drones and like have, I don't know what the story actually is, a programming error or some kind of virus, and like they part away from everything and build their own hives and whatever their goals are. But what about we really give those things real like AI behavior? Maybe like a AI fleet commander, whatever, that like focuses on growing those colonies. It will be, of course, very much it will be unimaginably hard to implement this to the game, but this would be a really cool thing, because just imagine like the possibilities. You could maybe set a drone hive in a region, and every 24 hours the drone hive will like use a filament to switch the region and basically grow over time. And if you don't fight it, the drones will basically fight you if they get strong enough. And something like this would be really cool for the game, I think.
I feel
Because
like you're baiting me.
what?
Am I being baited on a free topic? Is that what this is? Because I can jump into it.
All right. Go
So
easy.
first of
Okay.
all, the new AI that you're talking about is literally like one of the primary functions of the drifters. The drifters were an experimentation, were and are, of the of CCP's AI development system, and they work on a decision tree. And so they are, they attempt to harvest resources, and they have their own goals and all that sort of stuff. And while that has been
One question,
relative,
sorry.
Mhm.
Is the concept that like this system, or let's say neural net, will like learn over time and change its, let's say, directives like compared to player feedback?
they
So
have they have changed tactics several times. Trying to change their objectives. It's hard to tell because we don't know what their objectives.
okay.
Now, that being said, let's talk about road drones for a second. So, road drones came from the Orpheus project, when the Galente attempted to move into otherwise unsettled regions of space. They created a whole bunch of gates as part of another initiative whose name is eluding me right now. But about 10 years after they started that project, they started creating these ships with strong AI that had the capability of operating independently. And of course, they broke free of their moors, escaped out of Stargate, and went and started infesting that region. And the Galente shut off all of the Stargates in order to try to contain it. And then in YC 108, so 2006, all of the gates suddenly activated again, turning on the drone regions. There are multiple hives within the rogue drones. Each of them have their own command. They do have motivations. Now, this is not necessarily always reflected in the game. However, it is true that around the time that the Isogen 5 event and other things were happening, the rogue drones you started seeing unstable wormholes appearing in rogue drone centers. We also see rogue drones in the Abyss that are associated with either the Nafka Overmind or one of the Clades. There are also 2 other rogue drone hives that we've never seen in game, but can be seen by doing a show info, known as the Scylla and Charybdis infestation. And the rogue drones themselves are traditionally harvesting or interested in Isogen 5, which is a particularly interesting material. When Isogen 5 is energized or struck or hit or something like that, it will, when it receives energy, basically, it transfers into what's known as negative mass exotic matter, which is the very stuff that holds open wormholes to make them traversable for us. So the wormholes that we see now is because of a massive Isogen 5 explosion that occurred when a Thucker caravan guy destroyed Jamil's superweapon in order to prevent the rogue drones from stuffing the superweapon full of even more Isogen 5. There were caches of Isogen 5 throughout the galaxy around Type 01 blue stars, which all simultaneously ignited, destroying those systems and the first planet in those systems. Those stars are now Type AO, small blue stars, and the first planet is shattered. The most famous example is the Salient incident. We from there, like I said, we've got the rogue drones kind of continued their infestation, but they're always kind of like, who's in control of the rogue drones has always been a question, and different hives, as I said, are controlled by different things. One of the interesting notes is that when the Blood Raiders were going after Jamil's superweapon, the Blood Raiders had assistance from the Society of Conscious Thought, who broadcasted a signal to actually forcibly deactivate or forcibly pacify the rogue drones in the area. And actually, that's the reason why the rogue drones allowed the Thucker caravan dude to destroy the weapon, because they would rather be destroyed than be under control again. And so, yeah. Either way, one of my theories is that the rogue drones are the ones that have really been developing this filament universe boring technology, the ability to transport themselves from one place to another. I feel like it's where they've gotten into the Abyss. And it is, depending on how you read the text from the Triglavians, it is possibly the way that the Triglavians discovered the way to get back into our reality by using the rogue drone technology in filaments. The filaments, when they first broke out, or when they became available to the population, they found a massive cache of filaments inside of a rogue drone facility, and it's believed that that's why all of the pirates have these filaments when you go hack data sites and stuff, right? So finally, in this event that's happening right now, there's 3 new data cores or data streams that were released, and in 2 of them they refer to the Subornost. But in this case, Subornost, unlike before, has a capital S, so they're referring to a title of something, and they say the Subornost and the Kybernauts will blah 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 blah, and we are the Kybernauts. We know that. So the question is, who's the Subornost? In the rogue drones data streams, you see that when the rogue drones first encounter the Trig respond very aggressively. And then a second group of Trig decide that they should actually start to work together with the rogue drones. So they make friends in order to receive or achieve what they call procession, which I believe meant, that's where I got the idea where that's how they're getting into our reality. Now, why this matters? Because they say that the Subornost will come with them and will commune with those fit for glorification, and that the Kybernauts and the Subornost shall wash over the lands as the flood of liminality covers the faces of imminent glory and imminent gold. Which, by the way, imminent glory is literally the name of a star in their world. That's what they call Type AO blue stars. So they're saying, we're going to cover stars while the friendly Capsuleers and the rogue drones are sweeping over the land. So that's very likely what's going to be coming up. So there's probably going to be a lot more with rogue drones coming very soon, hopefully.
We shall see. Okay, we have to switch
Wow.
topics. Sorry.
That was right.
Yeah, it was a right. Astrathi usually delivers all the time. So if you want to know more about
Don't tell me
that,
there's no lore.
I'm not telling you there's no lore. I'm saying we're going to switch topics now. And also wanted to point out Hands of a Killer Chronicle, if you're interested. That is something from CCP. Explains here at the very bottom that a battleship, the Apocalypse class battleship, had 6,314 reported casualties from the destruction of the Apocalypse, which means that's probably the size of the crew per capsuleer. I think we were talking about there. There was Eon Magazine that actually talked about, is it time for players to have crews on their ships so that you can actually develop crews and make your ships more effective based on your crew that you keep alive. In any case, we're going to move over to some breaking news, which is something you wanted to talk about, Ash. Hobo Leaks is saying that Triglavians are arriving to Losec or something.
I don't know about that, but
Okay, I just
there
made it up.
are. Well, no. What I was saying is earlier when I was talking about the Rasnaborg, I saw 15 Rasnaborg in Fleet, which is a low security system. Normally, Rasnaborg are never seen in low security system and never seen in packs that big. And then it was revealed in the world news like 2 weeks later that that was one of the facilities that the Trig have been using for human experimentation, and then was raided by Concord. And then again, another location was listed in the news for a different reason. And when another guy went there, there was another pack of these Rasnaborg. So there's something happening. We haven't actually, I don't think anybody's actually killed these Rasnaborg and like looted them and figured out what's going on. But like this is how CCP like reveals things to us, usually through some sort of interaction in the universe. For example, when the Trig first came out, there were the Deathball Drifters that if you went and killed them, you would get new pieces of information that would eventually lead to that. So these things, there are two new files or two new items in the game: the Moros Inthopic Inhibitor and the Jarla's Semiotic Suppressor. And it says, this Triglavian deployable weapon system is functionally equivalent to an energy neutralizer, but works on somewhat different principle to standard neutralizers. While the means of causing energy loss is different, the end result is much the same. The Moroznik Inthopic Inhibitor is often used to reduce enemies' capacity to special Triglavian units using the designation Moroznik. And then the Jarla's Semiotic Suppressor is a jammer. It says, uses similar suite of techniques to degrade differential sensor systems with sufficient noise that target locks become impossible to achieve. So you have basically what this looks like is an advanced form of the pylons that we got during the old World Arc event. At certain phases during the World Arc event, these pylons would appear, and they would either be smart bombs, or they would be jamming, or they would like teleport you, something, and you'd have to blow them up and deal with them. Well, we are getting the World Arc back. It's there. So my guess would be that these pylons would be in relationship to that. Now, the Upwell one that you're showing right now, I haven't found yet. That is the glowy thing. That's just a filament. That's what a yeet filament looks like when you jump through.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, those are developed by Outer Ring Excavation. Those are the needle jack filaments.
The structure is an Edencom Upwell defense platform. So it's likely to be something that will like assist you in the sites that will be shooting at the bad guys when the next part of the invasion kicks off.
Yep. Well, so we have the Concord Observatory, right? But now in the files, we have the Imperial Stellar Observatory, the Republic, the State, and the Federal Stellar Observatory. We also see a set of rats for each empire now. We see the Scout, Executive, and Elite for the Glente, for all four empires, it would appear. We have a new set of Trig, including new way scarier Raznaborg anchoring Dracovic. So now we're going to have battle cruisers that scram people. That seems spooky. What I'm actually interested in right here is the DAS Protivarium Transmuter, which I probably should read before I talk about it too much.
What I'm interested in is the string that makes a reference to the Triglavian invasions reducing the security level of a system,
Which
potentially turning it into a low-sec system.
So this has been my theory for the last several weeks, which is that what's going to happen is that when they turn off the Stargate, they're going to turn a system into null security. Like there's no Concord there. They've been kicked out. And so once an invasion has taken over, it's possible that different resources will be available and different opportunities be available inside of the invaded system. And so you can either work for the Trig and harvest that resources and secure that area, or you can work against the Trig and for Edencom and help break their hold over the system and reopen the gates. That seems to be where they're going with this expansion.
With what's in the new strings, that's heavily implied that's true. If you look at some of the ships they've added, like the NPC, the Edencom ships, one trait that they have is the ability to warp scramble, which wouldn't make sense for an NPC that's going to fight other NPCs. But to quote the security level thing, it is as follows: the Concord security response level in the destination system has been decreased from X to Y because it is being invaded. You accept this risk by jumping through this gate. That to me is absolute confirmation that Triglavian invasions will potentially turn systems to low-sec.
There's also strings that implies that our 3-stage process of invasions are going to change. In the very first, in XCZ1, which is the first of the 3 Triglavian data streams that we just got in the last event, they say that the flow of virage from the ancient domains, or from the domains of Bujan to the ancient domains, shall pass from first liminality to second liminality to finally breach third liminality. And if you look in the strings, they now have made first liminality, second liminality into strings. So this seems to suggest that, like, right now we have 4 different stages of Triglavian invasions. You have scouts reported, conduit stabilized, and then either world arc detected or observatory flashpoints activated, or flashpoint or observatories activate, and then finally like a forces withdrawing. This sounds like there's going to be stages to like them holding the invasion zone. So if we hit third liminality, we probably lose it.
I've just found the key to the castle, I think. There is a bunch of icons that reference, I think they're designed to indicate either on the gate or somewhere on the UI, how a system has changed. And they contain high to low, high to null, low to high, low to null, null to high, null to low.
You know, I love being right.
A lot of changes.
They're going to scramble. They're going to scramble the map. This is bigger than.
I need to upgrade my POS. Add some more guns.
I've literally been trying to warn you guys about this for like months.
Okay, all right.
No, so Protovidium transmuter. So Protovidium, by the way, is hydrogen, and they are interested in. No, it isn't. That's the wrong one. Porvidium is what we believe is their word for the permeability of the universe. Like how well. So por is a hole, and vidium is a flaw. So Protovidium trace, which is one of the stats that they were very interested in when it comes to the stars, seems to suggest something about the ability for that system to be poked through. And now we have this thing that says the construction of these vast structures is clearly the key goal in this phase of the Triglavian Collective's invasion campaign. Edencom Intelligence has assessed that these huge arrays, with their central structure as stellar harvesting installations capable of delving profoundly into the stars they are orbiting. The clear intent of this unimaginable spatio-temporal manipulations these structures are undertaking is to harvest certain resources, and in doing so, completely transform the nature of the star itself. This assessment has been implicitly confirmed by the type of installation repeating monitor signals containing the deciphered term Das Protivarium transmuter. While these structures initially carry out limited probing and sampling, the power to reach the harvester escalates tremendously as the array of zero-point mass energy entanglers is constructed around the core harvester. Barely understood Triglavian techniques have hitherto seemed a merely scientific curiosity, will surely have dire consequences for any star system where their full capability is achieved. Edencom considers elimination of the threat posed by the Triglavian structures of this kind to have the highest priority for its defense fleets and allied capsuleers. So basically what's happening is they are making their tech. They're taking our stars. They're building that Dyson sphere. They're building the accelerators, and they're going to continue to build these facilities up more and more and more. And depending on whether or not players destroy them or stop other players from destroying them, or maybe even help them, will determine whether or not any given particular star is the star that becomes the one that they use, or one of the ones that they use for their main empire.
Please describe what Edencom is. We've gone over it before, but for people who are new.
Yeah. You want the long version or the short version?
Well, it's basically New Eden Command, so it's the empires all put together fighting off Triglavians. So it's an NPC
Correct.
force.
Yes. So Edencom is New Eden United Defense Committee, or I can't remember actually what it stands for. But what it basically means is that all four of the empires have united a part of their navy under Concord, commanded by Aegis Division, as part of a unified defense initiative against the Triglavians. And that's known as Edencom. That name was first announced on Capsuleer Day, which was last week.
Is there any word on how they're going to work with Faction War? Is it going to be like a second layer of Faction War?
This feels like a new kind of Faction War. So they added in 4 strings at the same time, and 2 of them were labeled test standings for Trig, and 2 of them were labeled placeholder. And then the 2 that got named was named Test Faction, or became Edencom and Edencom's description. And so the other 2 I always guessed would be the Trig faction and the Trig faction's description. So in the first chapter, we fought the Trig, and the whole time they're like, you should work with us. And we're like, we would like to, but we don't have ability to. And then in chapter 2, they're like, you should work with us. And then now there's a site where you can either fight with the Triglavians or you can fight with the Concord, but there was no lasting consequence. This is chapter 3. This is the end. This is what they've been working for over a year. We're going to be having to make a decision about whether or not we want to just fight for the Triglavians or fight for New Eden.
So that's Edencom. All right, bottom line this for us. Are they going to scramble the entire map? Because it sounds like they have the possibility of turning any security system into any other security system.
I think
Arataka Research Consortium has done a lot of research as to the pattern of stars that have come under attack from the Triglavians. It seems as if the Triglavians strongly prefer blue stars, and most interestingly, they prefer type AO and BO blue stars over type O1 blue stars. Type O1 blue stars were the, by the way, these are all real spectral classifications of stars. These are all real things about stars, except for Isogen 5, obviously. That's fantasy. But type O1 blue stars is well known because that's the stuff that made Isogen 5. Those are the stars that blew up. The ones that blew up became type AO blue stars, so that's kind of interesting. And then type BO blue stars also have Isogen 5, but at a much more limited level. So, but whatever it is, they're not really interested in the type O1 blue stars, which we would normally, but they are particularly disproportionately statistically interested in type BO and type AO blue stars. Which brings me back to that quote that I said where I said imminent gold and imminent glory. When they did the Rasnaborg reports, when they did reviews of 5 different stars, they have a bunch of stats about those stars. They have the thermokinesis. They have the Bella-Cherno scale, which is, I believe, temperature and light versus dark, basically. You have the Protivarium trace, right? But one of the things that they have is imminent or eminence. Now, this is not imminent. This doesn't mean coming soon. This is eminence, which means godly, omnipresent, or dwelling within. Okay. And each one of them has a name. So the white dwarf is imminent restful. And the pink star, which is kind of midway, is imminent medium. Well, the type AO blue star, specifically the star Niarja, was registered as imminence glory, which they say the faces of liminality shall cover. So chances are I would go outside and take a look outside to see if your star is this nice shiny blue star, and if it is, you may want to consider moving.
Yeah, so let's make it clear for people who may not know. Every system has one star and one star only. So that means if there's a certain designation of blue star out there that's more likely to get flipped, we can already determine what systems are likely to get flipped, and we should probably accumulate that list. Spod, what were you going to say?
Arataka Research Consortium has posted an incredible analysis in which they specify a certain number of high target items based on the star quality, how often they've been invaded, and other such factors. I can get you a link if you want.
Thanks. Yeah, give me a link on that. Go ahead, Spod.
I was going to say the stuff. I think people might be a little bit disappointed. I think it's only going to be systems going down. So when you have the null to high, for example, message, I think that's just the case of it's gone back from.
It's recovered. Null. Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
It would be cool if it was the other way around. It'd be very interesting, but I don't think it is. I think it is just it's going back the other way.
Well, it wouldn't make sense to jump into.
What are you saying? That it's only going up?
In other words,
so Triglavians will invade.
Yeah.
The security level will go down. You'll get a down icon, and then when the security level goes back up again because it's over or save the day, you will get the null to high icon.
I mean, that checks out.
Yeah, it means restored, basically. So changed and then restored. As opposed to an interesting thing that might have happened where Triglavians turn nullsec into highsec space, which would be weird.
Well, let's be clear. So to take a step back, let's take a step back and strip all the lore away from this, okay?
Yeah, gameplay. What is it?
CCP for the last year has been saying that their main effort is to add weather into EVE Online. Weather being temporary effects that fundamentally change an area for a short period of time. They've experimented with things like Triglavian invasions themselves that add both positive and negative effects to everybody within. The Stellar Accelerator, which is a structure that when assembled during the highest points of a Triglavian invasion, have secondary effects that are both positive and negative. They slow down your warp speed, but yet make it so that it's easier to track and stuff. And then, by the way, those Stellar Accelerators last past the invasion. If you don't destroy them and the invasion goes away, the Stellar Accelerator will remain. But this is just another example of that. They're working on. Oh, good, you've already found it. They're working on adding temporary status effects that change the world around you. So I also want to bring attention to the beginning of the Triglavian or of the Eclipse trailer. As Zoria is walking across the ground, we see rocks growing out of the ground, and those rocks are clearly entropic. They look very similar to Rakavine, which applies to me that what we're going to get is potentially a PI overhaul, but more importantly, a resource overhaul. What I believe is going to happen is that different resources are going to be available in these invaded systems than in other systems.
Interesting.
I mean, it's all like speculation, but I think the Triglavians, they are like pure chaos, and they will bring chaos, and it will be awesome.
They have been sneakily adding almost every single patch for the last few months, if not longer, has had new sound files every time. And every time those sound files are, the only way I can think of putting it is spooky weather noises. Not sure why they would drip feed them like that, but there's always these new, like, whooshy, beepy, ominous background noises that keep getting added.
Yeah, and they're also working on like dynamic music and noises. So like the problem is that when you pull the files and you listen to the sound files, you're only getting one piece of it. The whole point is that basically you write, like what a lot of games do nowadays is that you'll have a bunch of like voices track, as in like, like strings or percussion or whatever. Those are like voices. They're not actually like talking, but either way, like, and then you weave them in and bring them louder or quieter, whatever, based on the state, right? So like, as you get towards the end of the abyss and you start running out of time, the music becomes more intense and lets you know that like things are getting exciting now. And it's, so it's dynamic music. So when you listen to the files and the sounds right now, a lot of the times you're only getting a small piece of the layered music that we will eventually hear when it's happening.
Yeah, it's called adaptive audio. So this is the technical term, I think.
So we're looking at a map of the foothold systems. They're called recurrent foothold. This is on the Arataka white paper. It looks like they put together. It's very scientific looking. But if this is
they do some incredible
if
work.
This is an indication of where systems might flip, that's a lot of systems.
If you scroll down at the very bottom, they give a final analysis where they give a list of like 70 different systems, but then they narrow it down to what they believe is 24 high priority targets for defense. That's just a picture of every single foothold of, like measured in how many times it's happened. There you go. Here's the system. That's the risk group. So I believe the top chunk is the highest risk group.
All right. This is great. So if you want to get in on this, these might be the systems to hang around.
This is actually the reason why I've only been streaming like half of the time nowadays. Because like I literally spent an entire day just like we stared at a certain sun on stream. Like we had somebody go out to a specific system in Delve.
You're not supposed to stare at the sun.
Blue star.
It's true. Trump during an eclipse, staring at the sun.
It was so bad that my stream yesterday was called "No, I won't No, I won't shut up about the sun."
But this is interesting because one of the systems on this list is Narja and Domain. That's a key system for HiSec.
Not only is that on the list, but that is one of the 5 systems that the Rasenborg originally investigated, and it is the system that they refer to as Imminent Glory.
I think that's huge, huge news. It has massive repercussions for supplying. And this actually makes a Mar, essentially, if you cut off a Mar from Jita, because it's only 9 jumps, right? So it's a big trade route. If you cut that off, what happens to a Mar? Do the prices go up? I don't know. It has market implications as well.
So we're apparently getting logistical Triglavian ships, like hauling, like, well, I don't know, maybe? Hold on.
There's miners that are referenced to.
Yeah, until the appearance of vessels on the pattern of the Patembra class, Triglavian industrial and logistical operations had normally been observed to be automated or carried out by adapted tactical clade ships. The requirements of the vast industrial effort supporting the latest phase of the Triglavian invasion campaign evidently requires the dedication of haulers crewed by the inscrutable troikas of the collective. It says, Patembra subclade of the Velis clade accepted imprinting and operational priority of reversed adaptation schema for reverse time, accepted 36 logistical troika classification clade ship, following ascent conjunction on reverse time accepted schema with Kaladia and Stribzora subclades. Logistical subrole dispersal is mandated by proving of Zordash Chislav Zemakorg Noamada. So I know that's a lot of mess, but 36, normally every ship has a numbered classification, but it's like, so for instance, the Damovic is the 3 tactical troika classification clade ship. So this is the 36 logistical troika classification clade ship, which is a different thing than we've seen before. This says that it is of the Velis clade, but there's 2 others mentioned. I'm going to guess that those are like a Perun or a Svarog, and it's mandated by the proving of Zordash, Chislav Zemakorg, which Noimata, which is what again is referred to in the data streams. In fact, the data streams that we just got are XCZ data streams, which stands for Zordash Chislav Zemakorg. We don't know what that means 100%, but the Zordash is the name of the world arc, and the Chislav are the name of the Leshaks that are constructing the stellar accelerators. The Zemakorg is a new word, and a Noimata is like a strategy or a plan or a policy. So there's Zordash, Chislav, Zemakorg, Noimata.
And we know this because you've translated Triglavian.
Well, yeah. You read enough of this stuff, you can figure it out by. Well, it's a combination of contextual understanding and the fact that all of these, like the Triglavians, are Slavic. So a lot of these words are Slavic, like Sabornost and Noimata and all these things. These are Slavic terminology, so you can literally just Google them and find out what they mean. For example, I keep mentioning Daz, D-A-Z-H. Daz is the Slavic deity of the sun. So anytime they refer to suns, they refer to them as Daz. This is actually, so going back to like, what is the point of the lore? To me, this is one of the most exciting things about it, which is that like, in order to understand this crisis, not only have I had to research 15 years of this game to find little events here and there and things that have happened and tracing back to people's research and investigations and all that sort of stuff and trying to recreate that stuff. But also, I've had to study Slavic mythology to try to understand stuff. I now understand how star spectral class works. Like, there's just so much about like just the real world that you get to learn about in order to try to understand what the hell these guys are talking about.
That's wild. All right, we have a question here in chat. Looks kind of long, so you're going to have to read it. But he says, and this is Zalmoxe, says, the Concord security response level in the destination system has been decreased. And then it has parameters. He's asking for any info on that.
So, again, that string is filed under UI/map/starmap/security status negative modifier. So what's going to happen probably is that if you're looking in the UI and you hover over one of the stars that's being invaded, it'll tell you what has happened to that system. And this goes back to what's just happening right now, which is that the Triglavians are attempting to capture systems, and they are going, as they say in their own data stream, they're going from first liminality to second liminality, at last to breach third liminality, whatever the hell that means. And it would seem as if as we pass through those liminalities, which those are listed in the thing, they're going to be constructing increasingly sophisticated control and harvesting equipment on the star itself. And at a certain point, like in each of these stages, it's going to change the security status of the system, presumably towards nullsec.
Towards less security. Which, again, if Narja Gate breaks and becomes no security system, that breaks that pipe from Jita to Amar. And Amar is the trade hub that feeds the south, for the most part. I see it as interesting, but I wonder what it's going to take to restore systems and what kind of work that'll take for players.
Well, so that goes into the empire groups that we see. So in the same way that we see like different Triglavian forces, like scouting, i.e. Raznaborg forces, etc., we see scout, empire, and then elite, and then executive. So 3 different tiers of empire forces as well. And they're referred to as retaliating entities. This has been the way that's what they've been since chapter 2. So if I could venture a guess, we would work with Edencom in order to try to liberate these systems. My original guess was that we would be using drifter wormholes to get into these systems once they've been taken over. But with the new trace images that are being shown, I'm going to have to dig a little bit more to see if I can find more evidence. But it's possible that Edencom will provide us tools to use like filaments basically to attack the system.
Well, it's an interesting thing. The gates are coming down in these systems. At least that's what the video depicted, the trailer. If that's the case, you can't go through these systems. How do you get in? And so you were speculating that you'd have to actually probe down a wormhole and find your way in. And now you're thinking there's
been a lot
method.
of focus on the drifter wormholes. And drifter wormholes can appear in any system with a Jovian observatory. And so I've been kind of trying to make sure to keep an eye out on that. But like I said, we could just use a filament to get into that system. But one way or another, you know. I found some other interesting strings. So I see Triglavian Victory Environment.
Oh, shoot. I was muted. Sorry.
Oh.
It's okay. It wasn't that important.
You know, you're just saying if Niarja gets taken out, A, what kind of impact is that going to be? And B, how much effort, how long would it take? Will it be possible to undo the damage? Right.
Well, the question is, there is some permanence to this, and we know that this is going to be a permanent changes to EVE Online's landscape. Are the features going to be permanent changes? In other words, is Nargia going to be just completely closed, or is the permanent change the fact that weather has arrived and you will have a blizzard in Nargia closing it, but temporarily?
So there's actually 6 different states at least that I'm seeing. I see scouts and patrols, or stage hints, scouts and patrols, Triglavian establishment, Triglavian victory, Empire fortification escalation, and Empire fortified system. And in the Triglavian victory one, it says the Triglavian stellar harvesting and manipulation efforts have reached their peak, and the Triglavian collective has conquered this system. Edencom considers this system lost to the Triglavian collective and will redeploy defensive efforts to systems that can still be saved.
Okay, for us dummies, what is that?
What that's saying is at least the NPCs, once the Triglavians win, if it hits that so it starts in the middle, and it looks like it can either be pushed towards fortified by the empires or taken by the Triglavians. And if in other words,
fortified, fight for your space players, basically.
Yeah, it says this system has now been fortified by Edencom to the point that it is now unbreakable fortress that the Triglavian will find far too hard to target to conquer. Ongoing Triglavian invasion efforts will move to more vulnerable targets. So, like, a system will become under attack, and our efforts will either push it towards Edencom or towards the Trig. And if you get to the victory condition, it looks like the other side gives up and moves on somewhere else. So
this
how
is like faction war incursions changing the landscape of Empire space. That's what it seems like.
Which matches their Chapter 3 description. Hold on, let me look that up.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. So they're combining some things, it looks like. This will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, with EVE Online celebrating its 17th anniversary in May, Eclipse is only the start of the seismic changes hurtling towards the denizens of New Eden. Chapter 3 of the Triglavian invasion storyline is set to unfold, with players influencing the outcome of this star-spanning conflict. The landscape of New Eden will never be the same again, forcing Capsuleers to adapt to new and unprecedented challenges.
Looks like it.
This is what Icon911 asks, just joined. Is he talking about the current chapter or the upcoming? I'm talking about what is happening in about a week or two.
Probably on the 25th, right? Oh, or maybe sooner.
That is, the 26th or somewhere in that area. Yeah. So we have the Forsaken Fortress update that is happening on the 26th. It is very likely that this could be related to it. It could be a different week. One of the things that we have seen in the past is they will deploy the patch, and then 1 to 2 days later will start the event associated with this. So it's hard to tell if this will happen just prior to or just after the Forsaken Fortress update.
There's a lot of other systems here I recognize, like Skuluzer from Vergevender, Frarn from Heimatar. Let's see. Misha from Corazor. The Jokri from Kador. These are all systems that are well known. But nothing on here. Otella and the Forge, but that's already low sec, I think, or near there. But nothing really compares to Narja and Domain. That's a big system. Highly
The Empires
tried.
also will be deploying Sinosaural Field jammers. Hard to say where or how at this time, but there is Empire Sinosaural Field and Edencom Sinosaural Field jammer. So the Empires are going to Sino in and or jam them, depending on the condition.
Well, sure. If it is, if Concord is out and the Empires are out, it becomes lawless space. If you're fighting for Triglavians, you theoretically could drop supers and systems. So the players that are on the Edencom side of things would need to find a way to jam those systems so that they couldn't be out escalated.
There's also beacons, which are basically like sites. Invasion Empire Major Sino Small Wave Spawner, Invasion Major Sino Middle Wave Spawner, Invasion Empire Major Sino Side Wave Spawner. So it looks like there's going to be like sites in which, like I said, the Empires light Sinos and bring in things. They're deploying mining rigs, and then like they also have jammers if they want.
Okay, let's look up some of these systems, and then we can go into our off-air mode. But I want to look at some of these systems. Frarn is in Heimatar. Let's look at that one.
Triglavian auto miners.
It's right next to Ren, someone told me, right here. Yeah. But what I want to see is what trade routes are cut off. So we're going to change this from sovereignty to jumps in the last 24 hours. Because that will light up in yellow or red the paths that are taken. And that is a big one. And I think it does feed into Ren's, but it also seems like something of a crossroads. From Heck to Ren's, that is a critical system. Well, actually, you can go around it here.
Yeah,
so it
over molten heat.
Yeah, it actually is not a bottleneck. So let's look at a different one. I'm going to go to the main systems first, like
Triglavian structure mining laser. Oh, here we go. So some of the effects that it looks like will be affected is bonus to armor, bonus to energy warfare capacitor drain, bonus to mining speed, bonus to shield capacity, stasis webifier strength, mining speed, shield capacity, ECM range, and warp scramble strength. Lots of mining speed bonuses.
Yeah, look, this Narja system gets 2,000 jumps per hour, about 36,000 per day. Or in the last hour, it's gotten 2,000. So, but it gets about 36,000 jumps a day. That's a lot. That's a big system.
I think we now know the name of the Zappy Boy.
What is it?
Edencom Heavy Gunstar.
Gunstar.
And Edencom Gunstar.
The Gunstar stuff actually refers to a structure.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I love that. Should be.
It's a cool name though, Gunstar.
You're right. It's a destructible sentry gun. Huh, fair enough. There's a lot in here, by the way.
Oh, Chibi's nothing. It's a dead-end system, so that's not a big deal.
If you lose Niaja, it's something like a 25 jump detour.
Yeah.
I'm 1,000% going to make sure that the trig take Niaja
pocket.
again. Leshak Kybernaut Clade. Buh? Hold on. The Triglavian collective has not been universally opposed by all of New Eden, with subversive elements across New Eden finding something attractive, even uplifting, in Zoriev Triglav's message of proving and joining the flow. The radicals of the internal Triglavian revolutionary organization, also known as Intrigur, Intriguerre, claim that the Triglavian invasion represents a, quote, dynamic moment of challenge and opportunity for post-humanity, end quote. Intriguer's propagandists have released a ship nanocoding displaying the allegiance to the collective under the name Kybernaut Clade. We are Kybernauts, by the way, Capsuleers, in reference to the Triglavian term for Capsuleers. So there's actually a new set of skins to celebrate those who choose to join the Trig versus the Vindicators, the Eden Hunters skin, which is for people who work with Edencom.
So Manatrid is in Genesis. It cuts you off from the Eve Gate, but there is a way around. It's probably, this doesn't get too many jumps through it, but it gets enough.
The Heavy Gunstars was perhaps was the product of a push and is perhaps the most powerful defense weapon platform ever produced by New Eden's weapons engineer. Equipped with heavy batteries of capital-level weapons, the presence of Edencom's Heavy Gunstar represents a formidable obstacle to Triglavian invaders.
Well, this is an important system here. And this is on the way out to Great Wildlands from Metropolis. This is a bottleneck here. Horde rolled. You can't get past it. And to get to Antac R, there's no other way. So you would have to not be able to go there anymore. So that's a big deal. That system's critical. You might see that one fought over. It also has a station in it. I don't know if you're able to see that. Let's take a quick closer look. Let's get rid of that clothing advertising. All right, so if you can see, that system here is on a pipe, and there's no way around it. There's no other access to Antac R from from Metropolis to Great Wildlands. That's a critical system.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we also just got a president that said that they're putting up a new gate. So it looks like, CCP, Hilmar, back during the Chaos era, even I think it was during the interview on Talking Stations. It was either that or at the FanFest at home.
It was Talking Stations. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I think it was actually, but he was saying that the entire universe was generated once, right? Based on its seed. And they're tearing it down so that way they can regenerate it. So as of now, or what it was before, was that things like security status couldn't change. The gates between things was very difficult for them to modify, but they've been working on making it so that they can shuffle things around as often as they choose to. So now they could just build new gates or shut down gates.
So this is a big system in the Citadel, which is actually a very populated region in Keldari space. This system here is called Ainada, and it is a crossroads for Citadel, right outside of Tantaras. This is a critical system. Goes into Como, goes into Tantaras, goes into Oikinen. Wow, if you lose that one, you really break Citadel into 4 parts, or 3 parts. That is a big critical system, so look out for that one.
One thing I'm concerned about is that in the World Arc Proving Ground last time, the World Arc just kind of sat there while we did stuff and fought their bad guys. This time, the World Arc has an effect attached to it called Target Attack. So that'll be fun.
Another system looks like a key system, well-traveled in Verge Vendor, is Skaluzer. I told you that was one that I recognized because it is the tail that goes out to Syndicate. So Verge Vendor's access to Syndicate will be broken in half. And this is a shortcut from Essence, actually, to get to Placid. So that's a critical system.
Oh, I got it. So the observatories. It looks like the observatories will increase everyone's hit points energy neutralization, energy vampire, and mining cycle time bonus for for the Imperials. That's so each empire is going to get their own observatory, and when that observatory is active, it assists that empire's tank, mining speed, and that E-war. So Republic fleet is webbing and shields. Amar is energy newts and armor. State is shield and ECM, and Galente is armor and warp scramble speed or warp scramble strength.
Yeah, this is a semi-important system here, Faviki. It's on a pipe as well in Derelict, and this is one of the routes to Molden Heath and Great Wildlands. But there are routes that you can get around, so it's not completely cutting something off. It'll just add a lot of jumps. Like 5 or 6. Oh, that looks like a important system too. It does have a constellation that it is the entry point to, which would be weird. You have a constellation island because there's no other access to that constellation. But this system here called Elgoi is on a pipe from Hamatar, through to Hamatar. So it's not really that important unless it's a shortcut through Hamatar space, which it might be.
As incorrect, all 3 of the industrial platforms appear to be from the Veles subclade or Veles clade. That's something that nobody needs to necessarily care about.
Right outside of Canid Prime is Kitaled, and that system is also a choke point for travel from Quarius to Canid Prime, but also to Tashmerkin. There's like 4 systems that come into this one system, so if that gets blocked off, you're cutting off Quarius 3 TAC F, which is lower Quarius if you look at it. I won't go there now. Which means that A2 TAC Quarius would be the only one with a clear route up to Empire space. That's significant for Quarius, even though this system is in Canid.
It appears like there will be mining opportunities, so you'll be able to. It's kind of like if you think about the old resource wars. So there's orcas available, and there's things that are referring to helping them extract resources. So that might be a way to help fortify Empire support within an area.
Mm-hmm. So Kehor in Domain is another system that will break access to Corazor and Kador off from Domain. At least quick access. You could still get around through low sec space. That is
interesting. I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry. So like the systems we are now looking for, they were given to us by the studies of ARC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, for how long have those stars been the stars they are now? Did they probably get changed some years or some months ago with this plan in mind?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's funny that you ask that. There is a lot to do with stars. So basically, so if you look at the star itself, it'll give you the star classification. Like if you do a show info, it'll tell you the spectral class of the star. This value that they give is wrong. It is mapped 1-to-1 with the correct value. But in order to actually see the real classification of the star, you have to actually like go to the system and you can see the type, and it'll say like sun, blue, AO, right? And that'll be the star type. But if you look at it internally, it'll say like type F0 or something like that, which is technically wrong. the in space mapping maps to the real spectral classes. The internal mapping appears to, or the show info mapping appears to be like a different subset of spectral classes. Either way, one of the interesting things is, as I mentioned earlier, during the Salient incident, the O1 stars blew up and became AO stars. And if you go and look at those stars and their spectral class, they actually have the spectral class that should correspond to the original star type. So you can detect stars that they have changed by seeing that the spectral class doesn't match the displayed type in space. Now, there's a whole complicated reason why it has different reasons. Basically, every star has a type ID. Type ID is what denotes a different type of item in the game. The type ID is what gives the name that tells you the correct spectral class, but is not part of the actual star's main information. The main information of the star gives you the the star's spectral class, which is the one that is wrong. That being said, like I said, we can see the changes being done, and my original theory was that the type IDs got added on later as a way of correcting their mistake or something like that. But the type IDs for the stars are all super low, like 6. So I imagine this is something that they did very, very, very early or at the very beginning of the game. The problem is that all of these star changes happened in 2008, I think it is. And every single attempt to recreate any of the information before 2008 has come up with extreme frustration. Nobody talked about the types of stars before then. It may be because there wasn't one. I've tried to find the patch notes that denote that. I know that they just changed the stars like a year or two ago. And in that, there's actually even a video in which they show off the different stars and they refer to the spectral class, although they use they actually use the show info spectral class instead of the type ID's spectral class. But yeah, I this is something that I've spent multiple days on now this week trying to recreate what did the stars look like and how were they denoted prior to 2008, and I have so far come up empty.
Okay, I'd like to point out another interesting system or group of systems in Sync Liaison. They have 2 systems. They have Stegetta and Allah. And those 2 systems are actually really close together. So one of the problems with Allah is if you lose that system, in other words, if you can't pass through it, you're going to lose Sync Liaison's access to Bleaklands and to Everyshore. These are back doors that have been there for a long time. Yeah, so Everyshore here in Marmalot and Bleaklands, Sadasaurus, let's call it. Both access points through Allah will be gone. That's a big loss there. And then Stegata right next to it will, if that's lost, you're going to lose. It's not actually that critical because Gel is close by and Gel can get into Eglahende, I don't know, and Sacid. So you can still get to those systems. That's not a big deal. Steget itself is not a big deal, but Allah is.
You will not be able to get missions in systems that are under invasion.
Yeah.
This solar system is under attack. I cannot offer you new missions.
Some dialogue you found?
Yep, it's string 559229.
Yeah, there's a couple of that we've run across that are big systems, agency places. But not huge, so I don't know. Moro is right up near Aquarius, but again, this is that same area. This system won't be a big loss because you're already losing the whole branch here. When
yeah, just because they
Catalid.
disproportionately attack type AO and type BO blue stars doesn't necessarily mean those are the only ones that they're going to attack, though.
Yeah.
They've attacked plenty of orange stars. The Caroline Star W477 TAC P was a red giant. So it doesn't explicitly have to be a blue star, but that just seems to be the ones that they are the most interested in. And the Type AO blue star has the highest liminal potential according to their examinations.
Okay. Yeah. So going through some of these are. These are not systems that are going to be taken over. They just have a propensity to be taken over according to the patterns that we've seen before. This doesn't mean this is where the changes are coming.
Well, and again, it all depends on where you hit or where we defend, right? So these when they start to take over a system, that will basically begin the conflict. And then depending on whether or not players choose to do pro Empire or pro Triglavian activities will decide how that system progresses. I'm hopping on Singularity like right now.
All right, give me 1 second. We'll wrap up. So far, and we're now to Anarja, so we already covered that one. Looks like the majority of these, maybe 85, 90% of them are not critical pipe stations that would cause a problem for travel if the gates were missing, but Narja certainly is one of those. So is Cahur here in Domain. And we saw Citadel had a really critical system. Let's check it again. It's the Citadel, isn't it? Oh, I see. He starts it with a C. Okay. This system here, Anada, that's a critical system.
Yeah. They inspected 5 different systems, 5 different stars. The AO blue star that they did inspect was Niarja.
Yeah, interesting. And that might be the biggest shakeup this thing offers, and that's a huge shakeup. Change the status quo. All right. Thanks very much, Ash, for coming in, dropping a bunch of information on us. And I want to thank everybody in this chat. Who do we have here? So Ash, Spod, thank you guys. And Komi for coming around. Good luck with Komi's run for CSM.
Yeah, thank you.
And I want to thank all the people that were giving us information and questions in chat. Appreciate that always. Mentally exhausted? Yeah, I do this show at early in the morning so that I could do it with a quiet home. And I am usually staying up pretty late, so you're seeing a wiped out version of me. Which is not the best, but hopefully we bring enough content and entertainment so that you can have some information as you go about your day. Collectively, these should add up to some knowledge.
I'm going to post in your guys' chat or in Twitch. I just posted it's just a Twitter, but I'm going to collect these things together. But this is the Basilisk Kybernaut Clade skin. So this appears to be one of the skins that you can get if you work for the Triglavians. It's red and black with like stripes.
Caldari symbol on it, and it's red. Wild.
Well, I mean, it's a basilisk, so it's going to have the Caldari symbol on it. But it's very shiny, turning it around.
Oh, in the game, you've picked it out. Okay.
Yeah, I just took that screenshot.
Basilisk totally looks different than when I started playing. It's so much different than it used to look. It used to look like a deformed bird. All right. So once again, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Let's see if we can raid someone.
One last thing. The Kybernaut Clade skin, I haven't checked out the other one yet, but the Kybernaut Clade one appears to be for the Basilisk, the Bifrost, the Drekovic, the Guardian, the Kikimora, the Leshak, the Nestor, the Noctis, and the Vindicator.
Cool. All right. Carry on with Bjorn B, and we will see you tomorrow.